Hello and welcome to the Brutal Iron Gym podcast, where our goal is to cut through the BS and deliver the brutal truth about topics related to health and happiness. So today's topic is trainer education, and the title is Be More Than a Trainer. So we've discussed a little bit before in various ways about how being a successful trainer involves more than just training information. And what I mean by this, that we'll discuss in more detail today, is that when people come to us as trainers and they need help, like kind of the basic way of thinking is that, okay, they have a goal and we're going to tell them how to exercise, like what they should do for their exercise to reach that goal. And that's kind of the basics of what personal training is. But then I think very quickly, people realize as trainers that all of a sudden nutrition is a huge role as well, plays a huge role. So we've pretty much, recognized in our culture today that you can't out-exercise a bad diet. So now, granted, not everybody realizes that yet, but it's becoming more kind of commonly known that if somebody comes in and they exercise, they can't just go eat a Big Mac and, drink Coca-Cola, something like that. So more and more trainers are getting into giving nutrition advice and or just information. They're recognizing more and more that nutrition plays a role in the results that they're able to get for their clients. So for example, if somebody wants to build muscle, they have to have like enough excess above their daily needs in protein and healthy fats to help build muscle tissue. So you can be training like a bodybuilder. You can be doing all the things you should do to build muscle. But if your food doesn't support that, you will not build muscle. So it's not the training alone that dictates our results. It's the training and the nutrition. And the same thing true, obviously, for fat loss. So if somebody comes in, they exercise, but they go home and eat, 5,000 calories, they're, of course, not going to lose weight. So we recognize now that nutrition and training are tied together. So more and more trainers are recognizing you can't just have only training knowledge. You also have to have some kind of nutritional background or basics or some kind of understanding. Now, is training information and exercise information alone the complete package? And the answer is no. Now, if somebody comes to you and you tell them the right exercise to do, the right nutrition to do, and yet they fail. Maybe they fail because they don't adhere to the program. Maybe they fail because they do the program, but they kind of fade off later on. They kind of lost motivation. They lost, their drive. Maybe all of a sudden they just tell you like, hey, you told me I need to do this, this, and this for exercise and nutrition, but I can't fit that into my time schedule, so I just can't do it. I guess I won't be successful. So if we present them the training in the nutrition information alone, and they fail because of something in the regards to management of their emotional, mental health, management related to like time and energy, like lifestyle management, is that our fault? I think the technical answer is no, because that isn't what like trainers are kind of like. If you go to a counselor and a counselor doesn't help you with emotional health, well, that's good. That's kind of a counselor failing, because that's what a counselor is supposed to help you with, right? Now, granted, if they gave you all the tools and you didn't do it, that's not really their fault. So what we're trying to present here is not necessarily whose fault is it. What I would like to counter with is there more that we can do as a trainer to help them beyond just training and nutrition advice? And in my belief, the answer is yes. There are things that we can learn more about that will not only help us in terms of informational knowledge as a trainer, but be able to then help our clients better apply our informational knowledge to their lives. So, what I figured was, it was similar to you can, put directions for something in a box. So say you buy, a desk from IKEA, okay? And the directions are in the box. Someone took the time to write the steps of how to put that desk together, step by step by step. They even made a booklet about it. They even give you the screws. Like often they give you a little Allen wrench or whatever else you need. Everything is there for you to put that desk together smooth and quick and easy. However, the directions are in the box, but most people don't read them. Now, I will jokingly say that typically it's men that don't read it and women that do, but that's not true. Like, I've known a ton of women who don't read directions, and I've known a ton of men where they just pick up the thing and they start reading and they put it together and they're done. So it's not, so you can see it kind of either ways. But that's what ends up happening in a joking sense, okay, in this scenario, is they put directions in a box, but people don't read it until they mess up. Okay, they either get to the end and they have like an extra screw or two and they're like, crap, and they have to figure out where they went, or they get going along the way, things don't line up, and then they find out they have something like upside down or backwards. Okay, but people don't read the directions until they mess up, and then often when they mess up, they'll pick up the directions, they'll read through it, kind of like maybe a 70-ish% effort. Okay, they're kind of skimming as they go through the directions. They kind of look at the pictures, they skim through the words, and they go, oh, I got this. And then they put the directions back down, and then they try to finish the project. Sometimes they're successful, sometimes they fail again, have to pick up the directions, actually really read it this time. When, if they just read the directions the first part and followed the directions along the way, they would be totally fine. But since they disregarded the directions, they tried it on their own, they failed. They looked at directions, they tried it on their own, they failed. So that's kind of the process you'll see. So us as trainers, we can write what we want our clients to do. Just like the person at IKEA can write the directions for the desk. You can even explain it in words and pictures, okay, just like the directions do. But how do we get people to actually read it? How do we get people to actually follow the directions? And my argument for that, and what I want to present to you guys in this podcast, is that it takes more than just the act of writing the directions. So you need to have training knowledge. I think we all know that in order to be a good personal trainer, you have to know how to train, okay, like what people should be doing. And we've even talked before about like how nonverbal cues. We've had podcasts in the past about nonverbal cues. The way you stand, the way you move your hands, the way you just kind of present yourself during the workout. There's a lot, like even in just communication, okay, in regards to training, while you're doing the actual training education, that matters, whether it makes it something successful or unsuccessful, in terms of them learning what you want them to learn. Then we know that there's nutrition. So again, a good example of why nutritional knowledge is necessary for a trainer is because if you are presenting people with a way in which to exercise to either elicit muscle growth, but they're not eating enough to support that growth, you can have the best training program in the world, but it won't work. Just like for fat loss. You can have the best training program in the world to create good muscular damage that helps boost their metabolism and increase the amount of caloric burn they have at rest. And then all of a sudden, when they eat a nice controlled diet, they will lose body fat. But if they do not eat a controlled diet, you can have the perfect training, but it will not work, okay? I mean, yes, so the perfect training will not work if you don't have the perfect nutrition to support it, okay? Now, like we said, some other aspects to think of is time management. So there's a contrast you'll see a little bit, and like I've read in business books about time management versus energy management. And when time management books were popular, then somebody came up with a phrase like energy management. We all have the same amount of time, so we have different levels of energy, so therefore you have to manage energy, not time. That bullshit, okay? We all know what time management means, okay? And should you also manage energy? Yes. But they're both important. So for time management, for example, in business, I've learned to do like what's called block scheduling. So I'll try to put like similar work all together. So that way, once I'm in kind of the groove or the setup of one type of work, I can just roll through all of that stuff rather than having to like shut down, start up, shut down, start up. So, for example, as personal trainers, we all kind of know what I'm about to say, is if you have a client where you have a client for 1 hour, you have an hour that's supposed to be free, and then you have an hour client the next hour. Okay, so 3 hour block. 1 hour, first hour is with the client, second hour is free for you, third hour is the client. Well, the first client yaps and yaps and yaps, and they stay 5 to 10 minutes afterwards. Okay, but the second they realize that they have to go, they'll shut up and leave, but they don't give a shit whether you have to go or what you have to do. Okay, that's human nature. So not faulting them, that's just the way it works. So they're going to talk 5 or 10 minutes after. Then the next hour's person, if you're lucky and you got good clients, they might show up 5 minutes early. So all of a sudden that 60 minutes that you're supposed to have to yourself might only be 45 or 50. So that's mismanagement of time. A better way to manage time would be to put those two clients back to back. So that way, as you finish the first client, at the exact end of their hour, you start the next client. And the fact that the first client sees the next client standing there waiting, it gives you an easier transition. You can just say, oh, that was a great session today. I'm sorry to cut you off, but I got to get going into this next person's session. They're already kind of waiting for me. So that gives you a quick out. And then after the second clerk person, yeah, sure, they maybe stay 5 or 10 minutes, but you don't get that other part of the person showing up early. So maybe instead of a 15 minutes loss, you only get 10 minutes loss or 5 minutes loss. So when you clump similar work together, that creates time management skill, okay? So it improves or decreases, I guess, time wasted. So it's important that we know that for business, so that way we can be the most productive we can be. Now, it's also maybe important for us to teach that to our clients. So if they can't follow our diet because they say they don't have time to food prep, well, why the hell are they trying to food prep? Like a whole bunch of crazy stuff. So if they're cooking dinner like they normally would, just have them double the portions, and all of a sudden they can use the leftovers for tomorrow's lunch. You can also give them quicker meal options, such as like having nuts as an afternoon meal, because you can just buy a big package of nuts at a grocery store. There's no prep time. You just rip the top off, you eat it. Done. So finding ways for them to manage diet where they can prepare and have foods ready in faster time frames, okay, less time invested into it, they're going to be able to adhere to it better. Therefore, they'll follow their diet better, and then their training will get better results. So it's kind of a cascading thing. If they take care of time management takes care of nutrition takes care of training. So that's one example. There are a million more, by the way, but I'm just trying to get through a lot of like little cues here. So we're going to keep moving, but this is meant to give you guys some thought and something you can kind of grow on. So if you think time management might be something that is often an issue with your clients, go look at a time management book. Go find a time management resource. You know, maybe there's a podcast, maybe there's a YouTube video. So myself as a trainer, I love this stuff. This is what I do as my free time. So when I have nothing else to do, I will still watch videos of people exercising or nutrition videos and stuff because I'm weird and this is all I love. So, but like that's how I kind of use my time management for continuing education. So if I'm eating a meal, sometimes I'll watch something on YouTube. If I'm working out, I'll often listen to an audiobook. When I'm at home at night, instead of sitting and watching bullshit, stupid stuff on TV or whatever, I actually watch more educational stuff. Sometimes it's just for fun. Sometimes it's educational. Sometimes I will break away from that and watch, some kind of goofy show that has nothing to do with anything. But I do intentionally use my free time to use for continuing education when I want. So if you say, well, I don't have any time to learn more as a trainer, oh my gosh, you are absolutely full of shit. So you can learn stuff at all times of the day. There's podcasts you can listen to while you're brushing your teeth. Hell, you can listen to this. I didn't even intend to do that, okay? But you can listen to these podcasts while you're brushing your teeth, while you're driving to work, while you're folding laundry, while you're doing whatever the hell it is that you do that doesn't have to have an auditory focus. So if you're doing a physical thing that leaves space for auditory focus, okay, such as driving or folding laundry, then listen to a freaking podcast. Doesn't even have to be mine. okay, or this one, Brutal Iron Gym. But just that there's tons of time, okay? There is tons of availability for you to learn more when you want to. So all you have to do is actually give a shit, and you'll be surprised how much you can find room to fit stuff into your life. Okay? So then energy management. So an example of this in business is trying to, like for example, if you typically have a lull of sleepiness in say the early afternoon, that would be a great time to plan something physically active where you're up and moving. Maybe you go for a walk. Maybe that's when you work out. Maybe you schedule clients then. You want to schedule something up and active at a time when you have a hard time staying awake, because that way you'll be busy, you'll be up and moving. You wouldn't want to schedule something like what I'm doing right now, where I'm sitting down on my butt and doing a podcast. Because if I'm naturally tired at this time frame, that would be horrible, because I'd be super sleepy because I'm sitting on my butt doing nothing physically. So that's what you want to do with energy management, is schedule things around what your energy is as much as you can. So if you're super talkative and really kind of like your brain is awake and firing well in the mornings, that's when you would want to like call people, talk to people, communication skills, whatever you have to do through the day to communicate with other people. Okay. Whereas if you're kind of foggy brained in the evening, don't wait till then to call people. Don't wait till then to write emails. So in business, you manage your energy in the sense as when you're most alert, you do the things that require alertness. When you're going to be most fatigued and tired, you try to do things that are more physically active to keep you awake and keep you moving. Now, how do clients do this? Well, we all know energy management is something where, like, a good example is I'm too tired after work to work out. So when I go home, I kind of sit down, I can't get myself back up off the couch, and I just don't work out. Okay, like, great for the client that they recognize that. But you don't stop at those words, you fix the shit. So how we would do it is they either work out before work. Oh man, I'm not good at working out in the morning. You're not good at anything you're doing right now. Okay? So figure out what's going to work best for your schedule, and then frickin' toughen up and grow to the challenge, for gosh sake. Okay? Don't work with the pathetic human being that you are now. Become better. Don't work within the limitations of the person who has been the failure, who has not reached these goals. Okay? That person didn't reach the goals because that person was inadequate. Become a new person. So that's what we're looking to do. So we would tell them the options. You can work out before work. Okay? You can work out right after work. Don't drive home. Drive to the gym. Okay? If you have trouble getting home, sitting on the couch, eating dinner, and then getting back up off the couch, don't put your ass on the couch. Okay? So work out right after work. Well, what if I have dogs and I have to let my dogs out? Oh my gosh, excuse. So when you get home, get the dogs out of the cage, go for a freaking walk with the dogs. Okay? They'll be excited. They'll love to go for a walk. So people just have to stop relying on their bullshit that they use now to get out of work, and recognize that if they want something to change, they have to change. So that's going to be our goal as a trainer, is how do we manage their energy? So if they don't have great energy by the end of the day, okay, see if you can get them to go to work out before work. See if you can get them to work out right after work. Look at their nutrition. Maybe they're not eating enough during the day because they deem themselves to be the busiest human being on the planet, and they're so special that they can't eat during the day, even though billions of other people do. Okay, so we have to feed them better throughout the day. Try to get more calories in their face during the daytime, and they'll have a little more energy in the evening. Okay, so another thing we look at is sometimes people will fail to follow training and nutrition advice because of kind of like negative self-talk, negative self-motivation. So whenever they have small mistakes, they tend to beat themselves up, and it's an all or nothing, black or white kind of, here I am, failing again. So that's something we have to look at. So I have tons of clients I've ran into that with, where they make one mistake and you can hear like, oh, I'm always sick. Here I am getting sick again. Or, this always happens to me. Ugh. I just want to slap those people. Okay? What you notice happening to you is life. Everyone has sicknesses. Everyone has shit to do. Okay? Everyone has good times. Everyone has bad times. Yeah, there are seasons of bad times being worse than normal, but there's also seasons of good times. So I can't stand freaking negative people. But when you run into that as a client, okay, when you have a client doing that, I'll often try to remind them of things that I know of their past that they've been successful about. Okay, so if they're like, oh man, I just can't stick with something to do it every day. You brush teeth every day, you go to work every day, put on clothes every day. You know, you probably eat food every day. Probably don't skip a whole day without food sometimes. So there are so many things we do every day that we have become accustomed to. So if we want them to exercise every day, that can become a new thing that they do every day. So there are ways to kind of improve self-talking and self-motivation. So there's also aspects of like self-love, self-esteem, self-worth. So I've had people where they struggled. This is really kind of like a less common, but more common than what would be expected, and unfortunately, it's more common. But I'll have females where they've had histories of like sexual abuse, whether it's like actual physical abuse or just being mistreated in a sexual way, and like they would got overweight, and then all of a sudden when they're trying to lose weight, they run into what if that happens again. So I've actually talked to females about that. And they're like, well, if I lose weight again, people are just going to do this again or that again. Or, you know, like when I'm overweight, no one really notices me, so I feel protected. And oh man, that is like, that crushes your heart to hear that. So those are tough. Those are tough moments. So how do you get somebody to adhere to a good training and nutrition plan whenever they think if they lose weight to become healthy, now all of a sudden they're more susceptible to being mistreated? That sucks. Absolutely sucks. I don't have amazing answers for any of this stuff. So I read some books here and there. I try to pass along what I've read. So, for example, there's a book I like about mental health written by a female, Andrea Owen, and it's titled How to Stop Feeling Like Shit. It's a great title. But that one is a great resource, especially for females, about self-talking, self-motivation, self-love, self-esteem, self-worth, all that stuff. So if you can get someone to not beat themselves up so much, they can do better when they make small mistakes, to keep the small mistakes small. Okay? If you can get someone to maybe recognize that what has happened to them in the past isn't a guarantee that it will happen in the future. And maybe, you know, I'm like, this is conversations I've had with people in the past, and I don't know if any of this is right, so feel free to disagree with me. But if I had somebody who was 100 pounds overweight, and they're like, well, what if I lose weight, and what if I get kind of like mistreated again? My answer was, I have no clue what's going to happen in regards to that. But I do know that you're unhappy now. We're also unhealthy now. So if we're 100 pounds overweight, let's get down to say 80 and see how you feel there. If you still feel safe, if you still feel okay, let's get down to 60 pounds overweight. See how you feel there. So I would talk to them and tell them that this isn't an overnight thing. You know, you're going to have stages along the way. So let's go down through some of those stages. Let's get some of this weight off and see if maybe at 40 pounds overweight, you feel at least enough sense of protection, but you're at least healthier now and you're a little bit happier about your shape. And then hopefully during that process, we can get them the mental health to where they can finally get down to the body they absolutely would love to have. You know, everyone else, be damned, would be the greatest thing. But that is an example of something where, you know, I had that client, like, and this happened several times, unfortunately, is they're intelligent people. They know what you're writing for nutrition. They know what you're writing for training. They know what they should do, but they're not doing it. If we don't start talking to them and opening up a dialogue of love, okay, of compassion, you're never going to understand why they're not doing it. Therefore, they're never going to do it. They're never going to be successful. Neither one of you are going to understand what the hell's going on. No one's going to be happy. So those are the things that we have to open up ourselves to as a trainer, is recognizing that some of this stuff exists and there may be not a great answer for it, but we do have to at least discuss it so it's known, and maybe there's something we can do to kind of work within that to make a change, to get at least some degree of progress towards health and happiness. Okay? Then the last one I'll bring up is just understanding addictions. So sometimes people will have food addictions, therefore they're not going to do a great job of following a diet plan. So we have to figure out what is the underlying cause for the addiction. Sometimes I've had people with clients with exercise addiction. So they'll exercise to the point where it's absolutely detrimental to their health. People who do long distance runnings. And it's just, you can see their bodies just getting torn to shreds, falling apart and being ridiculously unhealthy. But they continue to do it over and over and over again. And you have to start to ask yourself, well, like, what's going on here? So clearly, if they're in these food cycles, these binge and like starvation cycles, if they're in these exercise cycles where they exercise till they get an injury, they have to take time off, they freak out during the time off, then as soon as they're healthy enough, they start moving again, they cause a damn injury again. So people have those type of addictions. So we have to find out what is the underlying cause of the addiction. What is the reason that is like kind of sparked that behavior? Very often it's not the behavior itself that's the problem. They're using that behavior as a sense of control over what the problem really is. So we have to find out what that problem is in the underlying aspects. So we have to think that it's not only telling them what they need to know. We also need to break down the barriers as to why they're not doing it. So most commonly, people know how to be healthier, but they're just not doing it. So us telling them how to do it best is good, but how do we get them to do it at all? That's even better. Now, some clients we run into, they have all the drive in the world perfectly. They've at least hidden their emotional, mental, and whatever issues, okay? And they just need the information. Those are going to be good, fun clients. You're going to enjoy that process because you get to kind of show off your knowledge, you get to build on your knowledge, you get to use the best of your knowledge. You're going to have some clients like that, and yay. Okay, and more so, yay that people are healthy and happy, and not everybody has, things that are getting in the way, at least in regards to health, physical health. Okay, everybody has some shit to deal with, but you will have other clients where they know they can be doing better, but they aren't. They know they should exercise, but they're not. They know they should eat better, but they're not. And those are the ones that becoming more than just a trainer is necessary. Having to figure out what is the issue that's causing them not to be successful in adherence, and how can we address it, how can we fix it. So I've been talking with somebody who's going to school for counseling, and we've been talking about how great it would be to have a joint service between counseling / like therapy and training and nutrition. So almost having like a counselor and a personal trainer joined together. And I think that would be an amazing service to offer people. And it would help both parties. So the counselor is going to do better with their counseling if the trainer can help the person's physical health. Because improving physical health tends to improve mental, emotional, relational, and spiritual health. And obviously, counseling tends to improve mental and emotional health, and definitely relational health. And that can lead over into giving them more tools for the person to then control their physical health. So they're very, very, very conjoined together in terms of the benefits of each. And I think that would be a great service to eventually offer people. So I do know people who are counselors, by the way. So if you ever think you want to reach out to a counselor, always email us at brutalirongym@gmail.com. We'll be happy to pass you along to some good ones that we know. But that's what we have to do for now as trainers, is we have to kind of be the counselor and the trainer. And I think that'll be the best way to think of it is how can I be a counselor for my clients so I can get them to better adhere to the training and nutrition information that I'm also intelligent enough to write correctly. So you have to be a counselor and you have to be a trainer. I think that's going to help. So how do you do it? Real quick, very fast is, number one, fix your own shit. Okay, whatever you're dealing with, I guarantee there's other people. So fix your own shit. Don't worry about other people yet. So get yourself regimented on consistent exercise and consistent nutrition. Whatever challenges you faced to get those consistent, I promise you will see those challenges in other people and you'll be able to help them. So number one rule of how to become better as a trainer, fix your own shit. Number two is read and research. Okay, so a couple things that I found very helpful that I'm going to give you some starters on. Mental health. Go read the book, How to Stop Feeling Like Shit by Andrea Owen. Great book. It's also a really good female perspective. So please go read that. Done. Okay, check that off the list. For anxiety, check out the anxiety and phobia workbook. 6th edition by Edmund Bourne, Bourne. The Anxiety, oh gosh, I can't say that word right now. The Anxiety and Phobia Workbook, 6th edition by Edmund Bourne. And then for food addictions, go check out our podcast number 135 and 136, which is how to help yourself, okay, with eating issues. And then the other one is how to help someone you love with eating issues. So check out those resources. That's a great place to start. And also fix your own shit. That's the best place to start. Okay? So if you need any help with this, if you are a trainer or if you're somebody who listened to this and you're not a trainer, you just thought it was an interesting topic, and you need any help whatsoever, okay? I've spent my entire 18-year career as a personal trainer trying to figure out how to learn all these other side things. I've read a bajillion books, watched a bajillion videos, everything. So if you need something, if you have a specific issue that is causing problems for you, reach out. We will get you a resource that will help. I promise, promise, promise. Okay? Cool. So thank you for listening to this. If you like the podcast, please share it with family and friends. The more people we help, the happier the world will be. Also, if you like this information, you can find more from us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Brutal Iron Gym. And if you have any questions, feedback, or suggestions, we'd love to hear from you. This podcast is for you, so we want to know what you want to learn about. You can tell us at our email at brutalirongym@gmail.com. As always, I hope this was helpful, and thank you for listening.